This is Chris Morrow. I'm at Comic-Con at home, and actually I'm at the Tin Fish right now. And the panel is, so you want to make an action figure? Conversation with today's indie toy makers. Hello.
Hello.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Hey. If you don't mind introducing yourself and tell me where your home is.
Sure. Hey, everybody. So my name's Gavin Hignight, and I'm the moderator for the panel, and I'm based out of Los Angeles.
My name's Chris Gawrych. I'm in this very hot New Jersey right now, and I'm with Amazo Toys, D13 Toys, and a couple other things.
And I'm Brian Flynn from Super 7, and we are up in foggy San Francisco.
Tell me about the panel. How did it go?
Well, I'll start off by saying it was amazing. It was perfect, but I'll let these guys talk a little bit too. But for me, I was absolutely thrilled with how it went. I felt like I learned a ton from everyone speaking, and just the energy was great. And yeah, super fun. What can you ask for?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely entertaining. It's, you know, like I've been saying, like on social media and everything, it's amazing to just share, you know, this stage with all these awesome people that make awesome toys, and, you know, getting to kind of meet a few of the people for the first time. And it's fun sharing stories because we all know, you know, the same, the same stories, just from, you know, different points of view, you know?
Yeah, stories and or struggles, yes.
Yeah, lots of struggles.
Yeah, I think the thing is that, you know, what San Diego is so much for so many of us is it's one of the 2 or 3 times a year that we all get to come back together and meet and see each other again and talk about all the things that we're working on, things that we've run into, get advice from each other. And without that, this almost became you know, sort of a facilitator or a faux version of that in-person experience, although, you know, recorded for public use. But San Diego is much more than just simply releasing toys and dressing up in costumes. For so many of us, it is the time where we can get together with each other and really sort of, you know, learn, as Chris was just saying, learn from each other and go, okay, here's what I ran into in the last 6 months. Here's some things I'm going, oh, you should talk to this person. You should talk to this person. Oh, this is how we solve that. And for all of us, it's a learning curve. And it's constantly something new as we continue to grow and evolve this sort of larger scale indie toy scene, which is really hasn't happened before. So it's very, very interesting.
So how do I make an action figure? I mean, you know, I have a lot of time on my hands.
We need a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Then.
there is a crowdfunding is definitely a word that we used a lot in the panel. And Chris, you know, that's one of the reasons the panel existed. My friend Doc and I are jumping into making toys ourselves, and we came up with a little company, and we got a license for a show, you know, we're really excited about, you know, The Prisoner from, you know, 1960s classic show. We're going to do a figure of number 6, but we didn't know. We were like, okay, we've been buying toys our whole life. We know what we like about them, what we don't like. How the heck do we make these? And that's what led me to Chris, who's on the panel, because he's been there, and he's not only worked with other companies, but he's also worked, you know, making toys for himself. And in my conversations with him, I realized, God, you know, there's all these talented guys, and they're all making this really cool stuff independently. I want to pick their brains. I want to hear what they have to say. And it was like, okay, that sounds like a panel. And everybody who came on board was just so open and friendly. These two especially, you know, just really sharing knowledge and the joy of creating this stuff.
Yeah, I think all of us fall into that same zone, which is much like most everybody that will watch the panel or is watching this. You know, you sit around with your friends and talk about how it would be cool if you made this, or it'd be cool if somebody made this. And most of us have then just sort of taken the leap to try to figure out how we turn that into reality. And it is possible. It's difficult. It's not an easy road. And if it was, everybody would be doing it. But it's not something that is impossible these days. You don't have to be a behemoth of a company to do it anymore. There are workarounds, there are ways to do it, but it's a very methodical process, and it's never quite the straight line that you think it is going into it.
Yeah, it's I've definitely been trying to help out, a number of people, and like Gavin said, I'm helping him out, and everyone that comes into it, it's always the same thing. It's always like, oh yeah, okay, I want to make this toy. What do I need? Like nobody knows kind of the details, the what's involved, the step by step, the capital, which is the most important thing. And the downside is with a lot of the factories, they want a high minimum order quantity, and I'm lucky enough that I can get a couple different factories that can do kind of low numbers, low runs, and that helps people. It does kind of still make the price a little higher, but I try to I should write it all down and just copy paste it, but I always type out the whole thing to everybody, but explain the whole process, explain how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take and everything. And usually it's an eye opener. Most people are kind of like,
I think how I started really loving toys and try to be creative is those blanks. When you get like some kind of figure and then you're able to actually, do something with it and draw on it or add something to it. And, I think that's probably the extent that I could get of putting an action figure together. But what's the process? Do you think that it's a 6-month process? Are you looking at something that might be more than a year if they're really serious about it?
I'll let these guys speak more to that, but I will say on the project I'm working on, I would say probably 2 years because of the small trial and errors that we've had. We started working with a sculptor who's using ZBrush to do our 3D model, which will eventually be turned into the toy. And the process with him has been 6 months back and forth already. But I'll defer to these gentlemen because they're going to know exactly what to say.
I was going to say, it'd be different with Brian because, Brian, similarity and differences. Brian's really, he's a little more up there, and he's doing some of he's like that mid-range. He's not Hasbro, but he's not, like a small, guy like me. And so for me, in helping like with Gavin and everything, it depends on where they're at with their project. Like Gavin, they're handling the sculpting. I'm handling the production and the development. So it, whatever amount of time he's spent on it already, whether it's dealing with the license or dealing with the sculptor, getting everything to a certain point before he even came to me. And then with me, then it's the tooling and engineering and the production, which could be 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. COVID 1 year, it's it all depends. But yeah, so Brian might have a different story.
Well, I mean, it's all relative. If you go back just a few years for us, we were much, much smaller. I think the reality is more than anything, when you're starting it, it's going to take a year or two because you don't know what you're doing. And generally speaking, you're working with sculptors that don't know what they're doing because the guys that can sculpt toys and do sculpt toys for a living are booked. So the first thing you run into is just because it's a good sculpture doesn't mean you can actually make it. Yeah. Like where, undercuts, how it's pulling out of the tool, how it's pulling out of the mold, what material are you using, how are you fitting in the engineering? All those kind of details are sort of lost on somebody that hasn't gone through the process multiple times. And what people don't realize is that you spend so much time developing your sculpts so that they can be reproduced. And that itself is a learning curve in the beginning for pretty much everyone, because invariably, just like Gavin was sort of saying, is like, oh, I went to a guy that knows how to use ZBrush and he made a really cool sculpture. And it's like, that will work as a statue. But now, how are you going to cast and mold that? How is it going to, and then all of a sudden you're like, I have to redo this entire thing top to bottom just to make it work.
Start all over.
Yeah, and there's a lot of learning process. So but it's the same thing. Like once you do it a couple times, it becomes muscle memory. You go into it knowing what the limitations are in the back of your mind. So you're already making stuff that is designed to be replicatable. And that's when you can start going faster. For us, our development time is roughly a year. That's how long we take so that we have enough time to get it done, but also enough time to screw up one or two things along the way.
It's inevitable. It always happens. You always run into something that like either you're kind of like, oh, how did I miss that? Or, you know, I didn't even see that coming. And it could be big or small. There's always something.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for your time. I'm Chris Morrow and remotely connecting from the Tin Fish. And we miss you and we'll see you next year.
Hope so.
I can't wait to see everyone in person. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all. That was really great.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
San Diego!